Good morning. My name is Donna Marie Collins. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over this morning's zoning hearing. All testimony and evidence that I accept during these hearings must be taken in under oath. I will administer the oath to everyone in the room at the conclusion of my introductory remarks, which are going to be abbreviated since we don't have members of the public here. Many of you that are here are familiar with the drill. First, the applicant will present their case. May consist of more than one witness. Following their presentation, we will go to staff. Staff will do a summary of their staff report and highlight any points of departure between the applicant and staff. We will discuss any outstanding conditions that may not have been resolved by now, and then we will have some closing remarks, and then I will prepare a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, who are the final decision makers in this case. This case does not seem that complex. I'm hoping that this hearing will not take that long. I'm hoping to get the recommendation out in time for there to be a final hearing before the board takes their summer break. That's my goal. Okay, all those that will be testifying on the record, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony and evidence you place into the record will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner, and good morning. For your record, my name is Richard Aiken. Here this morning on behalf of the applicant for the case number DCI2024-00034. Before we get started here, I've just got a couple of items to provide to you. So first, I have 2 copies of the applicant's PowerPoint presentation. I also have 2 copies of the master concept plan and a copy of the applicant's 48-hour letter.
Okay, 48-hour letter has already been marked as Exhibit A. PowerPoint will be Exhibit 1. And the MCP will be Exhibit 2. Is this an updated master concept plan from what was submitted with the staff report?
It is not. It is the same.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, thank you. This is my copy. All right, you may begin.
All right, so just briefly, I want to touch on the 48-hour letter that was submitted. We noted that we are in agreement with the staff report and the conditions. We just had 2 points of clarification. The first was about open space, the difference between the environmental staff report that noted the requirement for 30% versus the 20%. Given the fact that the project is in the mixed-use overlay, we did discuss that with staff, and I believe we are in agreement on that at this time. The MCP does depict the 20%. In addition, there's a mention of a roadway easement on the northern portion of the property. It references an 80-foot easement, and while the easement is 80 feet, there's only 40 of it on our property. The other 40 feet, half of that easement is not on this subject property. So just that clarifying note, that was all. Question, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The only other thing I was going to say is that we did attach a copy of the resume for Mr. Carr, who's the professional engineer for the project. He has not been accepted as an expert before here in Lee County, so we wanted to provide that ahead of time. So that's everything in the 48-hour letter, unless you have questions.
Okay, yes, I do. I noticed in the staff report that some uses were struck through and conditioned. Is applicant accepting of those changes that were made by staff?
Yes.
And there was something else. Oh, the signalization agreement. Is that a condition that's accepted or challenged, or?
We're accepting of that condition. We talked it through, and we're not something that we were going to argue about. So I guess that's something that will be addressed at the time of development order, I believe, pursuant to the condition.
Okay, I believe there's a couple of property owners in that area that have that condition, but, you know, the legalities of whether you're required to consent to that are, you know.
Correct.
Okay.
We discussed that internally, and
Well, that's very helpful to me. Thank you.
okay. Thank you.
You may begin.
All right, so we have our project team here this morning. The applicant and owner is here. David Bumpus is sitting here at the table with Margaret Embledge. Our planner is Margaret Embledge. She is with LJA Engineering. She's our AICP planner, and you're going to hear from her in just a minute. As I mentioned a minute ago, the project engineer is Jim Carr. He's also with LJA Engineering. Our environmental consultant is Jeremy Stark with CEP and EarthTech Environmental. And then our transportation consultant engineer is Jim Banks. Jim's got a presentation on his TIS and conclusions as a result of that. Just briefly, a location map here for you. You see the property, which is more visible, or more, it stands out. You see the blue arrow there. Front's on Plantation Road. It's just to the north of 6 Mile Cypress Parkway, which you can see over here. The Lee County Sports Complex is directly across Plantation Road from the Arthrex Center here, so that should orient you as to the location. The request. So the applicant is requesting to rezone its 37.7 acres from IPD and RPD to an MPD, so to a mixed-use plan development. The application includes 2 parcels. The IPD parcel currently includes 46,000 square feet of office uses and 191,000 square feet of warehouse uses. The applicant's proposing the mixed-use plan development to allow maximum flexibility here as the project moves forward. Not exactly sure what it's going to be, but this gives them some flexibility as they move forward. There are a couple of different options here. The options and limitations are based on 2 scenarios. So one is limited to a maximum of 105,000 square feet of office and 5,000 square feet of medical, or 80,000 square feet of retail and 5,000 square feet of medical office. And then you've got scenario B, which is limited to 30,000 square feet of retail office and 295 standard multifamily residential units plus 168 bonus density units. So I hope that's not muddy at all, but those are the 2 scenarios that are set forth in the request.
So basically, what you have here is a bubble plan that would allow for either alternative. I'm puzzled by the note, though, on the building envelope. It doesn't indicate that it's an either-or scenario, and my concern is that might cause some confusion.
Go ahead, Margaret.
All right. For the record, Margaret Embledge, that note probably can be removed, and we can amend that quickly and have it to you within today.
Okay.
But that is a holdover, and it really is based on, it's based on what's the envelope of the.
Okay, because what I would prefer to see is 2 boxes. The first box is development scenario 1.
Okay.
And then the second box, with an or.
Yeah.
And then a second box with development scenario 2.
Okay, great.
And it's fine that it's a bubble plan, because then you can arrange it however, once you get to development order stage. But I think that would be clear.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
We'll take care of that today.
All right. Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. So just briefly, I'll give you some background. I'm sure you're aware of Arthrex and its involvement here in Lee County, but it purchased this property in 2011 and opened the logistics center in 2012. It started off with approximately 50 to 60 employees and currently employs 500 employees. The expansion is anticipated to add some additional employees to get it up to about 1,350. As you probably know, Arthrex is an international medical device company with its location here in Lee County. The corporate headquarters are located in Naples. That houses corporate and manufacturing operations, as well as the medical education center for Arthrex. And this is just an expansion of, well, they have an existing facility there, but this would be an expansion of that. So with that, unless you have any other questions of me, I will turn it over to Ms. Embledge to go through some additional information about the site and the proposal.
What? Oh, sure. Again, Margaret Embledge with LJA Engineering. I'm AICP certified. I request to be accepted as an expert.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. So Richard gave a great introduction of the proposal, and just to add to what he went through, the applicant, their initial plan is to expand the logistics center, but they also wanted to have in the future, if they needed to expand or include residential. They have been working hard on providing housing for their employees and their visiting professionals. So this is part of the mixed-use flexibility opportunity that we're proposing. And as was stated, you know, there's 2 parcels, and the existing IPD parcel is a little over 19 acres. Currently includes 47,000 square feet of office and 235 square feet of warehouse. It was originally built to accommodate Robin Stuckey Furniture Warehouse, and when Arthrex purchased it in 2011, then it was repurposed for the logistics center. There's existing administrative zoning approvals, land development order, and water management approvals on that parcel. The north parcel, which is approximately 18 acres, was approved in 2007 for residential plan development to allow 219 multifamily dwelling units. Obviously, that was not pursued. The parcel is currently vacant and doesn't have any additional approvals. Excuse me, I'm getting froggy. The north parcel consists of a little over 16 acres of jurisdictional wetlands. This condition is reflected in the density calculation and the requested bonus density of 168 units for a total of approximately 465 residential units. The discussion on the jurisdictional wetlands will come later in our presentation by our expert environmental consultant. The master concept plan, as will be amended today as requested. This master concept plan, as you noted, is a bubble plan that allows the utmost flexibility for the agreed to development scenarios. Also on here is an existing stormwater lake that's on the south parcel. And then on the north parcel, you'll see that we're proposing to accommodate another stormwater lake and some dry detention to the north. We also are depicting the 40-foot easement, and also just inside, on the south side of the easement, we're providing a 5-foot buffer as agreed upon with and discussed with staff. Overall, the other buffers on the property are approximately 5 feet around. However, because the IPD was approved previously, there are some additional landscaping that was provided on the west side, and also includes some additional plantings for the lake was included as well. While I'm here, I just want to highlight that the building envelope to the separation between the building envelope and the rental apartments in Mirage Bay is approximately 500 feet, creating a great separation for the residential portion. Up further north, the separations are around 250 feet, and going down to around, on the south end, it's around 150 feet. So I just wanted to highlight that, those separations, and I'll refer to that again in the compatibility discussion. Do you have any questions on this master concept plan at this time? So again, the compatibility and fit within the surrounding area. This aerial is a great depiction of all the existing uses around the subject property, creating a great mixed use that supports the mixed use overlay that the county has adopted. And this project just is in, it's not in there, but it essentially represents an infill project within the area.
So you're saying the enhanced vegetation that was required by virtue of the earlier approval that predated the mixed-use overlay adoption, that vegetation is going to remain in
Yes.
place and maintained
Yes.
going forward?
Yes. Yep, and my square, this square is bigger than what I accommodated on the PowerPoint. I apologize.
Well, you're not alone. That happens with many presentations.
Yes, I'll work on that for the next one. This is depicting the surrounding zoning and land uses, you know, showing that there's, to the south, there's additional mixed-use planned development. To the west, as discussed, there's a residential planned development that's basically, or primarily, it's a rental apartment complex. And then just north of that is a office complex. And then to the north is the high school. And we have had discussions with the high school on compatibility, and they didn't have any issues. And I do believe there's a letter of their review in the file that's part of the record. And then to the east, you have an addition, you have another commercial plan development, and of course the CenturyLink Sports Complex, Hammond Stadium. The future land use map. This property is surrounded by the intensive development, and the property obviously is existing as intensive development. On the east side of 6 Mile Cypress, you'll see there's conservation, and the sports complex is designated as public facilities. And going into the mixed-use overlay, it talks about what to look for development within the mixed-use overlay. That includes public transit, educational facilities, recreation opportunities, existing residential employment centers. The surrounding area has, I think, a little bit of all of these, different criteria. And this project adds to the employment center and potential future residential as well. As they go forward. The mixed-use overlay, this project is consistent, as I was saying, based on that it includes some multimodal connections, and as I mentioned, the adjacent residential is 500 feet from the existing building, and there are existing and proposed internal pedestrian connections, and there's no intrusion to the single-family neighborhoods. This slide shows a list of the applicable LEA plan goals, objectives, and policies that the project is consistent with. And if you would like me to go through the details, I'd be happy to do that, or just go to the next slide.
You can proceed. I feel as though there was a comprehensive analysis provided in the applicant's narrative that was accompanied the staff report. So
Yes.
we'll rely on this PowerPoint and that exhibit, which is part of the PowerPoint and part of the record.
All right, thank you. So the highlighting goal 39 and regarding transportation, it talks about the multimodal transportation systems, and the proposed mixed-use development will integrate multiple land uses, including residential, commercial, and industrial. The connectivity to the adjacent area is provided, and I'm going to go here. There are sidewalks that are existing. The red area is noted as sidewalk will be added by this development. And however, there are existing sidewalks on both sides of Plantation Road and crosswalks to accommodate pedestrians going from one side to the other. There are 2 transit stops. One is on the mixed-use development to the south, and one is in front of the high school. I think that was all I wanted to cover on that.
Okay,
And
we can go back to the site plan for a minute
yes,
there. Okay, here's my concern with regard to the possibility of over 400 dwelling units. It may be too late for you to modify your master concept plan, but many times when we have a number like that of residential proposed, we ask for some accommodation for there to be a pullout outside the lanes of traffic for pupils to board and disembark from the school bus for safety reasons. So if you can't modify the master concept plan at this time because you want to keep all your options open, that is going to be a condition I will impose, and I have done it in many other cases.
Richard Aiken, the attorney, anticipated this.
Okay.
And we have a proposed condition that I'll read and then provide to you. Development order plans for multi-family residential dwelling units must include a safe pedestrian and bicycle access to the school bus stops. The site plan must depict locations for school buses to stop, load, and unload students. Plans must also include a dedicated area for students to wait for the school bus. These waiting areas must be outside road right-of-ways and coordinated with the Lee County School District.
Excellent. I'll take that.
And Madam Hearing Examiner, for the record, I pulled that condition from the recent Daniels approval.
Sounded familiar.
All right. So I'm going to turn this over to our transportation expert, Jim Banks, to go through the next few slides.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. I'm really here more to answer questions, but I'm going to give you a real brief overview. For the record, Jim Banks, here on behalf of the applicant. I won't go through my experience and qualifications because you have that on record.
You've been accepted as
Yes.
an expert in transportation engineering in this forum before, so you can just go right into your testimony.
Right, okay. My firm was responsible, I'm president of J&B Transportation Engineering, and my firm was responsible for preparing the traffic impact study for this application. You have it in your record. The traffic study was prepared pursuant to the criteria set forth by Lee County government. The traffic study evaluated or assessed the impacts of the project based upon the potential development of the most intense development scenario, which we have defined as scenario A. You refer to it as scenario 1, but we got it in the documentation as scenario A. I won't go through those land uses. It's already been outlined.
And you can stick with that on your master concept plan,
Yes.
A and B, if that's what you've used before.
Right. So the traffic study is based upon this most intense development scenario. We also did evaluate the scenario B potential, just to demonstrate to staff that if this is developed, it would generate less traffic and it would have a lower impact on the adjacent road network. Staff agrees with us that this would be the least intense development scenario, and therefore we were only required to analyze the scenario A impacts. Okay. We did estimate the project trips for scenario A development based upon the guidelines set forth by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, Trip Generation Manual, the 11th edition. We did determine that the highest peak hour trip demand generated by this project for scenario A would be 660 two-way peak hour trips. So we took that 660, which is the higher demand number, and then we applied that to the adjacent road network in order to establish what negative impacts, if any, would be created by this project. That's all in the report, which Lee County staff did review, and they agreed with the report's findings and conclusions. And that is that it was determined that the development of the most intense land use scenario, which is scenario A, will not adversely impact the surrounding road network. It was also verified that all roadways within the project's area of impact currently have a surplus of capacity and can accommodate the traffic associated with the project, and the road network will continue to operate acceptable levels of service at project build-out. It was also determined that this project will not create any transportation deficiencies that will need to be mitigated. But the report does identify that that intersection of 6 Mile Cypress Parkway and Plantation Road currently operates at an unacceptable level of service, regardless of future development of this site. Staff agreed with that finding, and we determined that the only way in order to achieve acceptable levels of service at that intersection would be that a traffic signal would be installed. You mentioned it earlier, there are other projects that are already in the lineup for making a contribution towards that. I think the primary driver of that is the project to the south, but I'm not sure exactly. But there are several other projects that are in the hopper for that. And then the only thing I'd like to clarify is that the pro rata share, we're not objecting to. We want it to be administered fairly, which it will be, and that it only applies to future development of this project. In other words, this project, part of this site's already been developed. So we're not going to go back and assess what's already been built. It only applies to the future development and net new trips that would be generated from the site. I just wanted to put that on the record. That concludes my testimony. If you have any questions.
Just a clarification, your transportation analysis, though, was based on the entire generation, existing and proposed, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Our next expert is our environmental consultant, Jeremy Stirk. And after Jeremy, we have Jim Carr, who will discuss some stormwater conditions.
Good morning. For the record, Jeremy Stirk. I'm with EarthTech Environmental. I have been accepted as an expert in this forum before. So essentially the vacant parcel is a abandoned agricultural parcel. It was historically ag, and then it just hasn't been in agricultural use for a long time. So therefore there was no indigenous vegetation identified on the site. As you can imagine, the entire area has been developed on 4 sides and really made this parcel a bowl. And so it's classified as a hydric agricultural, so therefore we did do a formal jurisdiction with the Water Management District. They had 16.63 acres of wetlands. Excuse me. Give you a map. So the wetlands are identified on that map, hatched in the green and blue. We have done listed species surveys on the site. Very, very low quality habitat, not really conducive to anything. Did not identify any listed species on the property.
Are there proposed impacts to wetland areas?
Yes, there absolutely would be. Those will be mitigated through the Water Management District and the Army Corps of Engineers as necessary, off-site.
Thank you.
And that's the end of my presentation. If you have any other questions.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jim Carr, professional engineer. with LJA Engineering. I asked to be accepted as an expert.
Okay, so I understand that this is the first time you're testifying in this forum.
Yes, with hearing examiner.
Okay, so before I accept you as an expert, I would like an overview of your educational background, your work experience, and your familiarity with the LEA plan and the Land Development Code provisions regarding the area in which you're going to testify on.
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from Tulane University. I've been working in Collier and Lee counties since 1992. I have been in Lee County in this type of forum, but it's been many years since I've been here. I worked on several projects within Lee County over the years. I'm sorry, I didn't know what other information that you needed from me.
So how many years have you been working with the Land Development Code?
With the Land Development Code in Lee County and projects since about 1997.
Okay. All right, I'll accept you as a expert witness in engineering.
Thank you. I have one slide here. I don't think I need to read through everything. I don't believe there were any real questions or concerns on the water management. We have not made any formal applications to the Water Management District yet, but we did take the concept plan and run our calculations to make sure that we've got adequate space for water management. The existing parcel will probably remain as it is. It's already been filled and developed. It's in Zone X, primarily Zone X, and then the vacant parcel is in a flood zone, an A zone. So we will have to do compensating storage most likely for that parcel. So we did set aside some land on the north side for that. And we provided a lake area that would accommodate the amount of new impervious or new development that will occur on the north side.
Can you confirm whether this parcel is in the 6 Mile Cypress watershed basin? And isn't there additional criteria that come into play at the development order stage if it is in that basin? I want to say I had another case in that area recently that was part of the basin and had to comply with those additional provisions.
That I certainly on the east side of Plantation, I would expect. I'm not certain if this piece
Okay.
is or not. I can certainly find that out.
All right. I was just wondering if you took that into consideration in the site design, if it is applicable.
Yeah, I did not on this preliminary study, but we can certainly look into that.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So can we bring up the site plan and you can explain to me the way the stormwater runoff is going to work?
Yes.
Identify the pretreatment areas and the outfall, just the path of which stormwater is going to take.
I think that works.
Well, that can work, right?
Okay, so like I said, the southern half of the parcel is developed. The lake for that parcel is on the west side. All the runoff from the development runs west through a detention area and then into that lake. The control structure is on the southeast corner of that lake, and discharge is along the southern property line heading east to Plantation, and then it's piped south out to, I believe, one of the roadside ditches south of the property. So that system is in place existing. With the expansion to the north, we anticipate we'd have a separate basin for that north area. It could be combined into one, but I expect it'll be a second basin. So with the amount of additional building and pavement that will occur there, less the north piece, the north hatched area that you see, that area is set aside for compensating floodplain storage. But with that new development impervious area, we've come up with a lake area that would accommodate that expansion, and then that lake would discharge south into the existing property. So it would be controlled at its allowable discharge rate, and then.
So the north lake is going to discharge into the south lake and eventually outfall to the ditch on Plantation Road?
Correct. subject to future permitting.
So the dry detention area is not part of the filtration system for the water management?
We do, they're not depicted on this plan. We are going to anticipate some pretreatment dry detention areas in the new development area that will be around the parking lots and building that will collect the water before it dumps into our proposed lake. And then when water is discharged from our lake, it'll be at a controlled, what's the allowable discharge rate for this area before it goes into the existing.
Area depicted for dry detention in the north then is solely for what?
That we're anticipating would be needed because we're in a floodplain, in a flood zone, that we'd have to do compensating floodplain storage. So that's basically a scrape down of existing ground to accommodate rising waters.
Rising waters from where? Where is?
Well, the reality is there may not, we are an infill, but we are also designated in a FEMA floodplain. So
Where's the water going to come from that's going to go in that area?
that's a very good question. In reality, I don't know how it would get there. It could back up through other storm pipes and other systems if the slough area ever rose to that designated FEMA elevation. So another option could be when we get to design stage and permitting that we could seek a FEMA permit to try to change the designation, but we're not anticipating that. So we're going ahead and setting aside the area that we expect will be needed. So that scrape down area is basically an offset for the amount of fill that we're going to put on the site, so that we don't fill within the floodplain. So there's a net balance there.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Whoops, sorry. So we're at the conclusion stage, and we request that, or the request complies with the Land Development Code 34-145 with those sub areas as conditioned. The applicant is in agreement with the staff report and conditions as clarified in the 48-hour letter. The applicant is in agreement with staff's recommended deviation regarding the buffer in the FPL easement. And just to discuss this a little bit further, the applicant had requested initially a deviation for this buffer because the existing development had received a letter of agreement with FPL for a modified buffer that exists, and it's primarily a hedge. And so we were looking at doing the same thing, and in talking with FPL, we'd have to go through that process with them to get agreement of what we can put in there, and at the same time accommodate the requirements for Lee County. So when we got the staff report, we have, all of a sudden, the staff was recommending that we have this deviation. So we agree with it, and there's no issue, but there's a little history with it, and I just wanted to explain. And we also believe that the request is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Lee Plan, and that the proposed uses are appropriate in this location, and that they are compatible with the surrounding uses, and that the recommended conditions provide sufficient safeguards to the public interest and are reasonably related to the impacts on the public's interest. And as I mentioned, the staff's recommended deviation, we believe it does enhance the achievement of the objectives of the mixed-use plan development and preserves and promotes the general intent of the Land Development Code to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And that concludes our presentation. Do you have any questions for our team?
I do not.
Okay, well, I guess you want to,
I just have one thing to add.
okay.
And that is, Madam Hearing Examiner, you asked a question about whether this property was located in the 6 Mile Cypress Watershed Basin, and I did review map 5D of the Lee plan. It is not in the 6 Mile Cypress Watershed
Thank you for
Basin.
clarifying that.
Thank you.
Sharam?
Good morning. Sharon Badamchian from Lee County Zoning. My resume is on file. I was recognized as expert in zoning and land use issues. I would like to be recognized as such at this time.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. This case was properly advertised, and I have a copy of the affidavit of advertising.
Okay. Affidavit of publication is Staff Exhibit 2.
No, it's not working for me.
Would you like me to run it for you?
No.
You got it? Okay.
Basically, this is the request. They are trying to have two different scenarios, and it's 37 acres. There are two parcels. One of them was rezoned to IPD via resolution Z03-0071, which allowed 47,000 square feet of office and 235,000 square feet of warehouse. That was Robin Stuckey. And the second parcel is comprised of 18.52 acres, was approved by resolution Z-06093 for 219 multifamily. Actually, I was the planner on that one in 2006. This is the location as they showed you, is the north of Hope Hospice or Hope. They changed the name several times. It used to be Hope Hospice. And south of the high school on the west side of Plantation. The future land use is intensive development and surrounded by intensive development with the exception of the Hammond Stadium. It is with the mixed-use overlay area. And this is the current zoning, North RPD, which I just mentioned that with 219 units approved, and southern is the Robin Stuckey or IPD or Arthrex RPD. And this is the master concept plan. Basically, they are showing two access points to the site. And in case it becomes a residential project, it's my experience with these things that with 460 units, it's more than likely that the school district is gonna ask something inside the development, so they truck, the bus pulls inside the development and loads students there. They don't want to, like 50, 60 kids along the sidewalk. But that's going to be up to school district to decide. Staff reviewed this request to make sure that they are in compliance with the LEAP plan and land development code regulations. And these are some of the goals, objectives, and policies that staff reviewed to make sure that they are in full compliance, and they are. And they are being served by major roads, and utilities are available. Everything is available there. This is the transportation condition that you mentioned. They negotiated this basically with the Department of Transportation here, and both sides are happy with it. We have some environmental conditions that they agreed with, and deviation, staff proposed one deviation just to be on the safe side. During the review, they didn't want to have problem with some other departments saying that they needed deviation. So we added that deviation just to make sure that the process goes smoothly. With that said, staff recommends approval of this request with subject to staff conditions and the deviation. Also, we are in agreement with the proposed school bus stop condition. And that's about it. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much. We have no members of the public, so we will not be going to public input. We're back to applicant. I don't think any closing remarks are necessary. Staff report was well done, very comprehensive information. I felt well prepared for the hearing. I've already performed my site visit to the property. We are leaving the record open briefly for a revised master concept plan to revise the note shown on the building to represent development alternative A, development alternative B.
I would recommend that they send that master concept plan to staff for review, and I make sure that I send your office a copy of it.
Okay.
That-
If that could happen today, the cutoff to get this to the board before their break is tomorrow. So the sooner I have it, the more likely I can accomplish that for the applicant.
If I may, I would like to be able to make those changes and email it to staff and the hearing examiner all at the same time. And staff can then, quickly give you their thumbs up if that's what they need to do.
Okay, that's fine, because really, we're basically revising a note that does not reflect the proposed plan of development and replacing it with a note that does.
Correct.
And my understanding is staff is in agreement with the description of alternative A and alternative B, so that should be turned around very quickly.
And the email address I send it to for you, just the HEX?
I think it's hearingexaminer@legov.com.
HEX@legov.com,
Okay, so that's the one we use. All right.
I think.
Don't send it to me. I know you have my email address. Don't send it directly
No,
to
I
me.
won't send it to you.
It's got to go through channels.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All right, if there isn't anything further, I will conclude this hearing. I will leave the record open till noon tomorrow for this replacement information. If for some reason that can't be accomplished in that time, please notify my office and we will extend that. Thank you for coming today. That concludes the hearing.
Thank you.